everyone, Sarah here. Rewind Justice brings you revenge stories that will blow your mind. If you're ready, hit subscribe and let's go.
I stared at my phone in my corner office on the 42nd floor. The Seattle skyline stretched behind me, rain streaking the floor-to-ceiling windows. My mom's text message glowed on the screen. "Alex, we need to talk about Thanksgiving. David's fiancée, Victoria, is from the Hartford family. You know Hartford Industries? They're very prominent. Very successful. The kind of people who vacation in the Hamptons and attend charity galas. We think it's best if you skip this year. You just not fit in." Dad agrees. One holiday won't hurt, right? My dad had added his own message 30 seconds later. "Your mother's right, honey. This is important for David's future. We need to make a good impression on Victoria's family. You understand?" I typed back a single word, "Understood." Then I set down my phone, picked up my office line and dialed my CFO. "Marcus Chen speaking. Marcus, it's Alex. I need you to prepare paperwork to sell my 63% controlling stake in Hartford Industries. I want it done by end of business Friday. Find the most aggressive buyer possible. Someone who'll clean house." There was a pause. "Alex, are you certain? That's a $127 million position. The Hartford family will." "I'm certain. Draft the documents. I'll sign them tonight." I hung up and leaned back in my chair. My hands weren't shaking. My heart rate was steady. I'd made bigger decisions than this before breakfast. But this one felt different. This one was personal. Growing up, I was always the odd one out in the Anderson family. My older brother David was the golden child. Handsome, charming, athletic, everything my parents wanted. He played varsity football, dated the prettiest girls, got a business degree from a state school, and landed a respectable job in pharmaceutical sales making $78,000 a year. My parents worshipped him. I was different. Quieter. I spent my teenage years coding in my bedroom, building websites for local businesses, teaching myself Python and JavaScript while David threw parties in the basement. I skipped prom to attend a hackathon. I turned down the state university to accept a full ride at MIT for computer science. MIT. My dad had said when I showed him the acceptance letter. "That's in Massachusetts. Why would you go all the way out there when you could stay close to home like David?" "Because it's one of the best computer science programs in the world," I'd replied. My mother had frowned. "Computer science. Is that really a career, honey? Sounds like a hobby." I went anyway. At MIT I thrived. I graduated summa cum laude at 20 with 3 job offers from major tech companies. I chose the startup. A small cybersecurity firm in Seattle with 12 employees and big dreams. They gave me equity, 4% of a company worth nothing. My parents thought I was insane. "You turned down $120,000 at Microsoft for $65,000 at a company nobody's heard of?" My dad had said. "David makes almost that much and he didn't even need a fancy degree." The startup was acquired 18 months later for $340 million. My 4% stake became $13.6 million overnight. I was 22 years old. I didn't tell my family. Instead, I took that money and started investing. Not in flashy tech stocks or cryptocurrency. I invested in boring, profitable manufacturing companies that nobody paid attention to. I bought controlling stakes in family-owned businesses whose founders were aging out and whose children didn't want the responsibility. I was strategic. I was patient. I was invisible. By the time I was 26, my portfolio was worth $287 million. By 30, it had crossed $500 million. I lived in a modest 2-bedroom condo in Capitol Hill. I drove a 4-year-old Honda Civic. I wore jeans and sweaters from Target. When I visited my parents twice a year, they still asked when I was going to get a real job, or meet a nice man and settle down like your brother. They had no idea I could buy their house 17 times over without touching my principal. 3 years ago, I'd been researching industrial valve manufacturers. Unglamorous businesses that made steady profits supplying oil refineries and water treatment plants. That's when I found Hartford Industries. Hartford was a third-generation family business based in Connecticut. They manufactured precision industrial components with $180 million in annual revenue. The problem? The Hartford family was fracturing. The grandfather who'd built the empire was dead. His 3 children were fighting over control. The company was bleeding talent and losing contracts. I saw an opportunity. I approached through intermediaries, shell companies, investment firms, attorneys who never mentioned my name. Over 18 months, I quietly purchased shares from family members who wanted out, executives who'd lost faith, and outside investors tired of the drama. Nobody noticed until I owned 63%. I never attended board meetings. I never made demands. I installed professional management, stayed silent, and let the company recover. Revenue climbed to $240 million. Profitability doubled. The Hartford family, what was left of them, assumed some faceless investment fund had saved their company. They sent fruit baskets at Christmas. The active Hartford family members, Victoria's father Richard, her uncle Thomas, and her aunt Catherine, together owned 31%. They ran day-to-day operations. They took the credit for the turnaround. They told everyone at country clubs and charity galas how they'd saved the family legacy. They had no idea they worked for me. I'd kept it that way intentionally. I didn't need recognition. I didn't need their gratitude. I just needed the 22% annual returns my portfolio companies generated. But then my brother David met Victoria Hartford at a pharmaceutical conference. Victoria was beautiful, accomplished, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. She was a VP at Hartford Industries, a title her father had given her along with a corner office and zero actual responsibilities. She made $240,000 a year to attend meetings and look impressive. David was smitten. 6 months later, he proposed with a $45,000 ring he couldn't afford. My parents were ecstatic. Victoria's family is old money, my mother gushed on our weekly phone call. Her father owns Hartford Industries. They have a house in Greenwich and an apartment in Manhattan. Can you imagine? Our David marrying into that kind of family? I'd said nothing. I'd watched as my parents fawned over Victoria at family dinners, asking about her childhood abroad and her time at Yale. I'd watched them apologize for our modest home and make excuses for the furniture that wasn't designer and the wine that came in bottles under $20. I'd watched Victoria smile politely and touch David's arm and say things like, "Oh, your family is charming. So authentic." The word hung in the air like an insult wrapped in silk. The Thanksgiving text arrived on a Monday morning, 3 weeks before the holiday. I was in back-to-back meetings all day, reviewing Q3 numbers for my manufacturing portfolio, discussing a potential acquisition in the aerospace sector, meeting with my wealth management team about tax optimization strategies. I didn't see the messages until 6 p.m. There were 7 texts total. My mother's first message was diplomatic. "Honey, can we talk about Thanksgiving this year?" Then came the escalation. "David and Victoria want to host at Victoria's parents' house in Greenwich. It's going to be very formal. The Hartfords are inviting some important business associates. We think it might be best if you sat this one out." My father's message was more direct. "Your mother's trying to be nice, but I'll be blunt. Victoria's family is upper crust. They're not going to understand your lifestyle choices. Your vintage clothes, your old car, your rented apartment. David's trying to make a good impression. We need you to help him by not being there." My mother again. "It's just one holiday, sweetheart. You can come for Christmas. This Thanksgiving is really important for David's future with Victoria's family. You just not fit in with their crowd. You understand, don't you?" David himself had sent the final message. "Alex, I know this sucks, but Victoria's parents are old school. Appearances matter to them. Can you just do this for me? Please." I read them all twice. Then I typed, "Understood." I didn't add anything else. I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I just picked up my office phone and called Marcus Chin. "Walk me through the sales structure," I said to Marcus on Tuesday morning. He'd worked through the night preparing documents. "We have 2 interested buyers," Marcus said, spreading folders across my conference table. "First is Blackstone. They'll pay $201 million for your 63% stake. Keep current management, minimal disruption. Clean, simple, professional." And the second? Velocity Capital Partners. They're known for aggressive restructuring. They'll pay $198 million, slightly less, but their offer includes immediate board replacement and management review. Based on their history, they'll fire at least 40% of current executives within 90 days. How long until the Hartford family realizes what's happening? The sale won't be public until filing with the SEC. That's mandatory within 4 business days of closing. So if we close Friday, the Hartford family finds out by the following Thursday at the latest. But realistically, the board chairman will get wind of it within hours of our signing. He'll have a legal obligation to inform the other board members, which includes Richard Hartford. What's the timeline from signing to the board chairman making calls? 2 to 6 hours, typically. I looked at the calendar. Today was Tuesday, November 7th. Thanksgiving was Thursday, November 23rd. If we signed Friday the 10th, the board would know by Friday evening. Richard Hartford would know by Saturday morning. The panic would begin immediately. Let's go with Velocity Capital, I said. Schedule the signing for Friday at 2 p.m. Make sure all documentation is airtight. Marcus looked at me carefully. Alex, this is going to devastate the Hartford family. Richard Hartford has run that company for 20 years. His daughter works there. This will destroy them professionally. That's not my concern. They work at a company I own 63% of. If they wanted job security, they should have performed better. This is personal, isn't it? I met his eyes. Draft the documents, Marcus. He nodded and left. I spent the next 3 days in a state of perfect calm. I attended my regular meetings. I reviewed quarterly reports from my other portfolio companies. I had dinner with my friend Jennifer, who ran a venture capital firm, and didn't mention anything about Thanksgiving or Hartford Industries. On Friday at 2 p.m., I signed 47 pages of legal documents transferring my 63% controlling stake in Hartford Industries to Velocity Capital Partners for $198 million. The wire transfer hit my account at 2:47 p.m. At 3:15 p.m. my phone rang. It was Marcus. The board chairman just called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning, he said. It's happening. I thanked him and hung up. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat by my window and watched the rain fall over Seattle. The board chairman, Robert Morrison, called David at 6:22 p.m. on Friday evening. I know this because David called me at 6:31 p.m. screaming. What did you do? I put him on speaker and set the phone on my kitchen counter. Hello, David. How are you? Don't play dumb with me. Victoria's father just got a call from their board chairman. Someone sold a controlling stake in Hartford Industries to a venture capital firm. They're going to gut the company. Victoria's father might lose his job. Her aunt and uncle could be fired. What did you do? I sold an asset, I said calmly. A personal investment decision. Why are you calling me about Victoria's father's employment problems? Because... He stopped. I could hear him breathing hard. Wait, what do you mean you sold an asset? I own 63% of Hartford Industries. Past tense. As of 2:47 p.m. today, I no longer own any stake in the company. I sold to Velocity Capital Partners for $198 million. Silence. Then, you're lying. I'm not. Would you like me to send you the wire transfer confirmation? It's quite a large number. Very satisfying to see in your account. You can't own 63% of Hartford Industries. That's a $300 million company. You work in tech. You have a rented apartment. You drive a Honda Civic. I own a condo actually. Paid cash. And yes, I drove a Civic. I'm thinking of upgrading to a Tesla. What does my car have to do with Hartford Industries? Alex. His voice cracked. This isn't funny. Victoria's family is panicking. Her father is talking to lawyers. They're trying to figure out who sold the shares. If you really did this, if this is real, you just destroyed her family's company. You destroyed David's future in-laws. You destroyed my engagement. I sold an underperforming asset to a buyer who'll maximize shareholder value. That's called capitalism, David. I thought you had a business degree. Why? His voice dropped to a whisper. Why would you do this? I received a text on Monday from our mother. Would you like me to read it to you? Alex. Don't come to Thanksgiving. David's fiancée is from the Hartford family. You just not fit in. One holiday won't hurt. Dad agreed. You sent your own message asking me to do you a favor by staying away. So I'm doing you a favor. Now you don't have to worry about me embarrassing anyone at Thanksgiving. Problem solved. You sold a $200 million stake in a company because you weren't invited to Thanksgiving? No, David. I sold a $200 million stake in a company because my own family told me I was too embarrassing to sit at the same table as them. There's a difference. I could hear him breathing. Can you undo it? Can you buy the shares back? No. The sale is final. Velocity Capital Partners now controls Hartford Industries. I believe they're planning to replace the entire executive team within 90 days. Richard Hartford will likely be offered a severance package or a demotion to a consultancy role with no real power. Victoria's uncle and aunt will probably be terminated. Victoria herself. I paused. Well, VPs who were hired because of family connections rather than qualifications tend not to survive private equity restructuring. You're destroying people's lives over a Thanksgiving invitation. I'm making a sound business decision. The Hartford family has been coasting on legacy and connections while underperforming for years. Velocity will install competent management and increase shareholder value. Everyone wins. Except people who got their jobs through nepotism rather than merit. Victoria is going to call off the engagement. Then she doesn't love you, David. She loves what she thought your family connection to her family could provide. Status. Stability. Continuation of her comfortable life. If she walks away because her father lost his job, then you're better off without her. I hate you. That's fair. Enjoy Thanksgiving at the Hartford house. I'm sure the conversation will be very interesting. Goodbye, David. I hung up. My phone immediately started buzzing with texts. My mother, David just called US crying. What is happening? Did you really own Victoria's family company? Why didn't you tell US? My father, call me immediately. This is serious. David again, Mom and Dad want answers. You need to call them now. I turned off my phone and poured another glass of wine. Saturday morning, my parents showed up at my condo at 7:15 a.m. I answered the door in pajamas, coffee in hand. This is a surprise. We drove through the night, my mother said, pushing past me into my living room. My father followed, his face red. We need to talk about what you did. I sold an investment. Adults do that. You own 63% of Hartford Industries, my father said. That's not an investment. That's millions of dollars. Where did you get that kind of money? I earned it. Through a series of successful business ventures over the past decade. My mother sat heavily on my couch. You've been rich this whole time? While we worried about you. While we asked if you needed money for rent or groceries. While you wore thrift store clothes and drove that terrible car. I wore Target clothes. And my car was perfectly functional. I chose to live modestly because I don't need external validation through consumption. Unlike some people. Don't you dare lecture us, my father snapped. You just destroyed your brother's engagement. Victoria called it off this morning. Her father is furious. He's threatening to sue you for market manipulation or corporate sabotage or something. Their lawyers are looking into it. They won't find anything. Every share was purchased legally through proper channels. Every disclosure was filed correctly. Every transaction was at fair market value. I broke no laws. But you broke our family, my mother said softly. Over Thanksgiving. Over one stupid holiday. No, Mom. You broke our family when you told me I was too embarrassing to attend Thanksgiving. When you said I wouldn't fit in with Victoria's family. When you chose David's relationship with a woman he's known for 6 months over your relationship with your own daughter. We were trying to help David's future. By sacrificing me. You always sacrifice me, Mom. Every achievement I've ever had you've dismissed. Why go so far away? My job offers? Why not choose the safe option? My success. You never even asked. You just assumed I was struggling because I didn't perform success the way you wanted me to. We didn't know. Biz, you never asked. In 10 years you never once asked how I was really doing. You never asked about my work beyond still doing that computer thing. You never asked about my life. You just assumed I was failing because I wasn't performing like David. My father's jaw tightened. So this is revenge. You're punishing your brother because we hurt your feelings. I'm not punishing David. I'm divesting from an underperforming asset. The fact that it affects David is incidental. If he chose to tie his future to a woman whose family built their wealth on legacy rather than merit, that was his decision. Victoria's family didn't deserve this. Victoria's family runs a company they don't own. They work for shareholders. I was the majority shareholder. I sold to a buyer who will increase value. That's how business works. If Richard Hartford wanted control of Hartford Industries, he should have owned more than 31% of it. My mother was crying now. Can you fix this? Please? Can you buy the company back? Save Victoria's father's job? Give David another chance. No. Why not? Because you still don't understand what you did wrong. You're not sorry you excluded me. You're sorry there were consequences. You're not apologizing for treating me like an embarrassment. You're upset that the embarrassment turned out to have power. If I'd sold Hartford Industries and David's engagement had survived, you wouldn't care at all. That's not fair. You texted me that I wouldn't fit in with the Hartfords, that I'd embarrass David, that my lifestyle choices would make your family look bad. Those were your exact words, Mom. You didn't say, we can't afford another guest, or, space is limited. You said I wasn't good enough, that I was beneath them, that I was the problem. Silence. We made a mistake, my father finally said. We should have handled it differently. We should have asked you about your life. We should have known. Yes, you should have. Can you forgive us? I looked at my parents, sitting in my living room that they'd never visited before, in my condo they didn't know I owned, surrounded by a life they'd never bothered to learn about. I don't know, I said honestly. Right now, I don't have an answer for you. Over the next week, the dominoes fell exactly as predicted. Velocity Capital Partners announced the acquisition on Monday. Hartford Industries stock jumped 12% on news of professional management taking control. Financial analysts praised the move. By Wednesday, Richard Hartford had been asked to transition to an advisory role, corporate speak for being fired with a severance package. Victoria's uncle Thomas was terminated. Her Aunt Catherine took early retirement rather than face demotion. Victoria herself was let go on Thursday with 2-week severance. The local Connecticut papers ran stories. Hartford Industries sold to private equity firm. Family dynasty ends after 3 generations. Victoria's family blamed David. They blamed his unstable family connections. They blamed him for not vetting his relatives before getting engaged. Victoria left him. David moved back in with our parents. My mother called me 6 times. I didn't answer. My father sent one text, I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. But the truth was I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad either. It just felt clear. I'd spent 30 years trying to earn my family's respect by becoming successful. I'd thought if I was accomplished enough, wealthy enough, impressive enough, they'd finally see me. But they never would have seen me. Because they were looking for a version of success they could understand. Designer clothes, expensive cars, jobs they could explain at cocktail parties. I'd built something bigger than that. Something invisible. Something that didn't need their validation. And when they told me I wasn't good enough to sit at their table, I'd finally understood. I'd been sitting at the head of a much bigger table all along. They just never bothered to look. 3 months later, I got an email from Jennifer, my venture capitalist friend. Coffee this week? I have a business proposition. We met at our usual cafe in South Lake Union. She slid a folder across the table. What's this? Hartford Industries. Velocity is looking to sell already. They've stabilized operations, cleaned house, installed new leadership. Now they want to flip it for profit. They're asking $340 million for the whole company. I opened the folder. The numbers looked good. Revenue was up 18%. Costs were down 23%. The new CEO had restructured contracts and landed 2 major new clients. Why are you showing me this? Because I know what you did, Alex. I know why you sold. And I think you should buy it back. That seems counterproductive. Not revenge. Not punishment. Business. The company's worth buying now. It wasn't when the Hartfords ran it into the ground. But now. Now it's actually valuable. You could own 100% of a $340 million company that's profitable, well-managed, and positioned for growth. I studied the numbers. What would you do with it? Jennifer asked. Keep the new management. Let them run it. Stay invisible. Same as before. And your family? What about them? Your brother's ex-fiancée's family all got fired from a company you might buy back. That's going to come out eventually. Let it. I'm not hiding anymore. I bought Hartford Industries for $340 million on April 3rd. This time I didn't use shell companies or intermediaries. I bought it in my own name. Alexandra Marie Anderson. The SEC filings went public immediately. My mother called within an hour. I answered. You bought Victoria's family's company, she said. No hello. No preamble. Yes. Why? It's a good investment. 22% projected annual returns. Strong management. Growing market share. Alex. This is going to destroy what's left of David's relationship with the Hartfords. David doesn't have a relationship with the Hartfords. Victoria ended their engagement 3 months ago. What are you actually worried about, Mom? Silence. Then, I'm worried about you. You've become someone I don't recognize. No, Mom. I've always been this person. You just never looked. I heard her breath catch. Can we try again? Your father and we've been talking. We made terrible mistakes. We see that now. We want to fix this. We want to know you. The real you. I looked out my office window. Seattle stretched below me, gray and green and beautiful. I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year, I said. At my place. Catered. Not fancy. Just real. If you want to come, you're welcome. Both of you. David too. But you come as guest. Not as family who tolerates me. As people who actually want to know me. We do want to know you. Then prove it. Show up. Ask questions. Listen to answers. Don't make assumptions. And Mom. Yes. Don't ever tell me I'm not good enough again. Because I've always been good enough. You just weren't looking in the right places. I hung up before she could respond. Thanksgiving came. My parents showed up at my condo at 2 p.m. hesitant and nervous. David came too, quieter than I'd ever seen him. We ate catered turkey and professional mashed potatoes. We talked about my work. Really talked with actual questions and follow-up and curiosity. I showed them my portfolio summary. My father's eyes went wide at the numbers. My mother kept shaking her head. All this time, she whispered. All this time you were successful, I finished. Just not in the way you were looking for. David spoke for the first time. I'm sorry. For the text. For asking you to skip Thanksgiving. For never seeing you. I looked at my brother. I forgive you. But things are different now. I know. They left at 7 p.m. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't healed. But it was a start. And the next morning I woke up to an email from the new CEO of Hartford Industries, the company I now owned completely. Ms. Anderson, Q4 numbers are exceptional. Revenue up 31% year over year. Would you like to schedule a meeting to discuss expansion strategy? I smiled and typed back, yes. Let's build something worth keeping. Because that's what I'd learned. Success isn't about proving you're good enough to people who refuse to see you. It's about building something so undeniable that eventually even the blind have to look. And when they finally do, you get to decide if you're still interested in showing them what they missed.